this video, I'm going to cover a very important and a very different concept of macroeconomics, which was termed as game theory. Uh, Before creating this, I looked at the various game theory videos that are available, but I do see a few key pointers missing in those in terms of the teachings. So in this attempt, what I'm going to try and do is go through the game theory, what it means, how it applies to the real world scenarios, which is the most important thing that most people miss out on, and how do we try and understand that with a real world scenario so that we can implement game theory where it's important for us. And game theory is just everywhere. If you look at it, it is in the decisions, it is in your salary negotiations, it is in businesses, and it spans across multiple avenues where you have to make a decision, right? So I'll take you through that today. In terms of the learnings, basically we'll see what first of all what the competitive markets mean, the introduction to the game theory, what does game theory say, and how is it different from what others have said, other economists have said before the game theory came into play. Some real world examples, we have about 6 examples, but out of that I've picked one which is very close to all of us for the best understanding of how game theory is applied at a business level or at multiple businesses levels. And finally, we'll go through some of the conclusions that are learnings from the game theory. So, a typical market or a typical competitive market looks at buyers and sellers. But before we go into the competitive markets, let's understand what 2 important people in macroeconomics said during their respective times of study. So first, Adam Smith, which is the father of economics, he said that a group will do well if each individual does what is best for themselves, right? Which makes a lot of sense in terms of when somebody does well for themselves and they group up, it makes a big good group, right? And John Nash, who invented the game theory, said a group will do well if each individual does what is best for themselves and for the group. Now that's that slight change, but that slight change is not just coming from a statement. There have been theses around it. There have been examples that have been taken that make sense and make this a very important aspect and a very important small change in the statement, but has a very big impact on how businesses work and how businesses think across the world. So a typical competitive market looks something like this, where we have a oligopolistic market. We have a few seller parties that are investing large amount of funds producing something, and then those seller parties are trying to sell something to a group of buyers, which is on the right hand side. And generally these buyers are generic buyers like you and me, who are consumers in the economy, right? So this is what a typical oligopolistic market looks like. But there are problems with this kind of market. First, there is heavy amount of competition, right? So any new seller comes in with funds and starts the same business right beside where you are selling as a business today. There is a non-uniform market share because there is a player who has been in the area for a really long time. He has a good influence, who has good connections, and there is another player which probably has a different kind of benefit over others, which makes it difficult for the market makers, which is sellers, to really perform in such kind of a market. There is individual benefiting behavior, right? That means everybody is trying to snatch a share which will profit them and only them, with less certainty. But yes, everybody tries to pull in a share, a piece of what is being sold in the entire market. There is a low hit rate, obviously, because if you see in important areas where shopping complexes are there, you will see the same product being sold or the same type of product being sold, clothing brands one besides the other with no uniqueness around it. They will tend to pull each other's market shares in a very in a very drastic manner, and everyone will get a very low hit rate. And most important is, between these people there will be immense amount of price wars, and none of the parties will have any pricing power for them to price it accurately. Everybody will try to either pick a price that is lower than the others and try to sell their product with whatever little margin that comes to them. Now, that is not something that was preferred by John Nash. He said that a group of individuals, and this is this example of a oligopolistic market where I said, there are very few buyers, competition is, very high, and there is no certainty around who will get a customer today. If a buyer comes in and if he's trying, then everybody tries to play a price war with each other. Eventually one person gets it, but then the other people have lost the share. Now tomorrow that same person is not going to be able to price at the same price and is going to lose that share back to someone. And that's basically what we see in businesses today, right? When somebody says that the business is not going well, this is what is happening, that somebody is pricing something lower than them, giving them the same quality, possibly not the same quality, but price is a very important factor. And these price wars lead to what Adam Smith said: a group will do well if an individual does what is best for themselves. Basically, this is a retrofit of, if I take the 5 top players and create a group, the group will obviously be strong, right? But it is required to be uniform across various markets, and that is what John Nash observed. If we look at how can we make this market the John Nash way? What is the John Nash way? It is not something that is trying to topple the market and say its fundamentals are wrong. If I add 3 things into a normal competitive oligopolistic market, it will make it a fairly and a nicer competitive market. 1, unite and coordinate between all the sellers. 2nd, uniform and controlled pricing between the sellers, which is pre-decided, which you see these days in vegetable markets, where there is a meeting that goes on in the morning about what will be the range of each vegetable that is bought into the market. And if you look at it, if you go around in the market, there will not be a very drastic difference between what one seller is doing and what the other seller is doing. And you will see that uniformity and that united approach to pricing. So there is no pricing war. Everybody knows that if a customer is going away from me, he's not going to get a very big bargain over price, and that is what keeps them calm and do their business the usual way. And the third one is controlling the supply powers. Now, not in all businesses you can do the third point, but the third point can make a very big difference in the entire game of businesses. So unite and coordinate, uniform and control pricing, and controlled supply powers. If these 3 things are added, then the same buyers who are competing with each other can start making a fair share for each with a very high and consistent rate of return. If we try and understand some of the examples that has happened, I just told you the APMC markets in India, the online cab enablers pricing, you will see there are not many drastic gaps. It's not like somebody is giving you an online cab at 500 and somebody is giving you at 200, which is a big bargain. It would be 500, 480, 450, 520. It would be in a range, and that is coordinated pricing. E-commerce discounts, car makers and their prices, you will see a segment of a car, which is a passenger car, which maybe comes in at the very entry stage, they're all priced around the same price. You will not find a very drastic difference saying, and if you want to go buy a car, you look at a Tata, you look at a Hyundai, you look at a Honda, you will not find many big differences in pricing in the same segment if you're looking for a car. That is what is, that is where you will see coordination between the sellers of the product. Yes, there is fierce competition within them also, but each one is trying to be fair to other by having a good healthy competition in the market, by keeping the price ranges equivalent and in a defined range. And the last one is OPEC for crude oil price. OPEC is basically someone who controls crude oil supply and pricing. Amongst them there are about 15 countries. I don't know what is the recent number, but I think it was 15 once upon a time. It could have changed in the recent times, but 15 countries who can produce crude oil came together and said, we will control the supply of the crude oil to the entire world. Now they are defining the supply in the market. That means they are defining the price in the market, and you will not see crude oil being sold at a cheaper rate by one country, and obviously who are part of OPEC. There are other countries who are not part of OPEC who produce crude oil and they are selling at the rate that they prefer. But OPEC is one big example of such coordinated market pricing and supply management. And this is the same thing that John Nash has been saying, that a group will do well, which is OPEC, when every individual in the group does what's best for them. So everybody is trying to make a profit and best for what is required for the group. That means the group will only benefit when there is a certain pricing certainty around it, there is a demand certainty, and most important, you will be able to control supply of that commodity that you are selling. This is a simple concept of John Nash, which is termed as the game theory, and this is used across industries. As consumers, we are always thinking that something is being sold at a discount to us, but in most cases you will see that the prices are coordinated between multiple players within a same segment. So if you'll see the premium segment, look at earphones in the premium segment, look at laptops in the premium segment, look at laptops in the entry level, you'll find all of them to be in a very, very narrow price band, where somebody is giving you a different credit card discount, somebody is giving you a different benefit of an additional warranty at best. That's it. But when you're trying to buy something, they're all pricing at a particular price point or within a range around that price point. That is the most important concept of game theory, and that is the most important understanding of how pricing should be done by a group of business owners if they want to be profitable, meagerly profitable, but yet there is high amount of certainty in being profitable. Let's look at one of the examples from this, and this you will see as being shown as prisoner's dilemma in most books, most videos, but prisoner's dilemma is I would say is a very old example, right? And we need more real world examples, and one of the real world examples is, if you see the e-commerce fight that is prevailing in India from a really long time between Amazon and Flipkart. Now this matrix is called as the game theory matrix, where we put options that each of the party has and see where do we arrive at a position where from there both of them would not have the motivation to move either places, right? So if you look at Amazon and if you look at Flipkart, let's say the first option that they take is they both decide to compete with each other, right? They say it doesn't matter, we have the same products, we have a brilliant website, we have a large base of Indian customers, we will compete against each other, and both choose the option of competing against each other. Now like I said, this becomes a very standard oligopolistic market, And one of the most important points is they lose market share to each other and they lose customers to each other, thus reducing the hit rate of where the customer will land to buy something. And in most cases, what will happen is the customer will search the product on both the platforms and buy wherever they are getting a lower price, right? And the standard oligopolistic market. Now there is some bit of movement that can be done by other parties, right? Let's say Amazon says, "Let me be a good, you know, business fostering company here, and let me not compete. Let me go into the cooperate mode." But if Flipkart decides that they will stay in the competition mode and Amazon goes into the cooperate mode where now they're pricing fairly with Flipkart, or they're not changing their prices because they are into the corporate mode, then Flipkart will just take away all the share that Amazon has by pricing it lower and giving them much more benefits to the customers that Amazon cannot, and simply pull the market shares on their side. The reverse will happen if Flipkart decides to cooperate and Amazon still stays in the compete mode. Either ways, Flipkart or Amazon will lose shares in market share in both the conditions. Now, what if both of them decide to come to a position where both of them will not harm each other, they'll price fairly, and they will have a healthy competition between the two of them? That is where they both say that we will both cooperate. And that cooperation leads to formation of a cartel, a healthy cartel, where businesses are able to survive and they are able to pull each other up and down, so that they are both staying abreast and they're both staying very true to what the market price is. And that, if they both cooperate, will keep us, will have a very big impact on pricing. It will be fairly priced on both the platforms. Now, the biggest example of the two e-commerce companies cooperating is you will see that the sales or the sale dates of both of these companies are very different. Most of the times you will see them cooperating with each other. If somebody has a Diwali sale during a certain time, the other party will go back and release their sale dates on a different day. And if you go back and look at the last 5 years dates of both of these e-commerce giants in India, you will see that there is a clear sense of cooperation between the two parties. They are very clear that we each want to have customers buy during a certain point of time for a certain product, but they do not want to compete with each other saying, I am, as Amazon, I am on sale, and as Flipkart, I am on sale at the same time. You will see a massive difference between the dates. Go back and look and observe at those dates. It will be very interesting for you to see the last 5 years that this has been happening very evidently. So that's what where both of them are happy and satisfied, and they come to a point where they both cooperate. This point where both the parties have got the optimal result is called as the Nash equilibrium. The equilibrium point, and that does not mean that both of them are making maximum profits. When I say optimum point, that does not mean both of them are making maximum profit. Both of them are able to cooperate with each other and have a significant amount of profit on both their plates. Equilibrium also means that from this point, the other party will not be motivated to take an action which will give them a better result. If either of them moves from cooperate to compete, it is not going to give them a better result. So they are forced to stay in this understanding phase, or the equilibrium, or the John Nash equilibrium phase, where the price, or rather where the benefit to both the parties is optimum, right? Few concluding statements. The Nash equilibrium, like we said, the point where there is optimum results for both the parties. in any game where there is a finite number of people, players, and a finite number of choices, there is at least one position from which no single player alone can improve his or her position. That's simply the John Nash equilibrium, which we saw in both cooperating, right? Also, like I said, the equilibrium does not mean that there is a best outcome. It simply means that they are unable to change the choices of the other to benefit better. In most cases around the world, you will see this happening real time across industries, across small shops, across unorganized sectors. Look at if you are living in a big society, look at the maids pricing their services within the houses of the society. You will not find a big difference. They'll all be aligned to each other. The reason is that they have come with a defined pricing already when they had their meeting and they had to decide on what is the fair pricing today if I have to provide these services to someone, right? And the gain from this is it may not be exponential profit, but now each one knows that the other 10 parties which are in the same business are not going to kill and play away the market share from me, because they are pricing at the same price. If still the customers go to a particular shop due to loyalty or a particular place due to their old habits, that's just basically consumer behavior that is not in anyone's hands. But if the pricing is done with certainty, the returns also come with a little certainty around, and it helps all businesses to foster better in a coordinated environment. This is as simple as what John Nash tried to put. It was a very important study in the field of economics. It was a study that has broken, or rather mended, the ways markets are understood today. Even if you see in pricing of the stocks, there are positions of equilibrium. That's a topic for another day, but equilibrium positions come in every single play. If you play a sport, there will be an equilibrium where either sides do not have the advantage during a certain time. They're both going through the phases of going through a match or a sport, and then suddenly one side gets the advantage of it. Again, game theory is a theory which does not apply to sports, because sports is a very competitive game and it has to have an outcome that is accurate. It has to have an outcome that is black or white. But in businesses, we don't need a black and white outcome. We simply need an outcome where most companies that open survive, and if they want to survive, they will have to coordinate with each other. That's simply the Nash equilibrium by Dr. John Nash. I hope this was insightful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.